So of course you need to want to have freedom. We can't force freedom on you. It's just not freedom anymore. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. And especially anybody who wants what GNOME has to offer. Because GNOME has a strong vision of what it wants to do. It won't do everything for everybody, because then it would be nothing good. So GNOME has a strong focus. It has a target audience, which is very inclusive, as I've shown. But still, GNOME has a strong vision. Part of that vision is to first design the user experience, which really came to be in GNOME 3. Before GNOME 3, GNOME wanted to be a desktop environment, whatever that meant. And, well, it was kind of going, when somebody wanted a feature, oh sure, let's add it. And things got added like this, and became kind of a monster trying to do a bit of everything and not doing anything great. So for GNOME 3, the real focus has changed. In GNOME Asia, John McCann, Jacob Steiner, and Alan Day were talking about it in their keynote. They wanted to move beyond dead reckoning. Dead reckoning is when you're sailing a boat without really seeing where you're going. You're just figuring the next step as you reach it. And so GNOME 3 really has a strong focus on designing the user experience first, figuring out what they want to do, and doing it. There's this sentence, the GNOME developers, designers, contributors think that it's better to be great for some people than to be mediocre for everybody. That's really this idea that when you try to do everything for everyone, you're just being everything, but everything will be average. You will never be great at anything. And, well, GNOME people think it's better to be loved by some and hated by the other than to have everybody indifferent to you because you're not great at anything. And GNOME takes responsibility for the whole stack. GNOME could very well say, oh, we're a desktop environment, and if there's a bug in the lower part of the stacks, in the Linux kernel, that impacts the GNOME user experience, then that's a bug in the kernel, and there's nothing we can do about it, and we don't really care. But GNOME doesn't do that. GNOME takes responsibility for the whole stack. So they choose the lower level components they want to integrate with. I wrote this example, systemd, Pulsodio, iBus, there are many others. Some people might not be happy about it, but, well, maybe they're just not the target audience for GNOME. But GNOME wants to offer something great, so it has to focus on a few components and say, this is what we will be working well with, and we might work good with the rest, but we want to focus on this one. Because, well, in free software and even in proprietary software actually, the manpower is always limited, so you have to focus on something if you want to do it great. So GNOME chooses. GNOME will work with this project and not work around them. I don't want to be bashing KDE. It's just the only example I have that comes to mind about it. There were in the past a few bugs in the NVIDIA drivers for NVIDIA graphic chips. What KDE did is that it tried to detect, and if you had this specific graphic card that had this problem, then they would, in the code, work around it and try to make something, maybe a fallback without all the graphical effects. GNOME doesn't do that. If there's a bug in the graphical drivers, then either GNOME will ask the relevant developers to fix it, or if they can, they will go and fix it. Very often, some GNOME developers go and fix the drivers for Intel, for Nouveau, the NVIDIA open source ones, etc. That's really the idea that they won't work around the other software of the stack, but they will act like I think you should act when you're dealing with free software. You own the stack, because it's shared into everybody, so it's also shared with you. You're a developer of one application, the rest is available to you, so you should feel like you own it and go ahead and fix the bugs where they are instead of working around them in your higher level desktop or in your applications. And so bugs in the lower levels are GNOME bugs. If they impact GNOME users, they are considered as GNOME bugs, and GNOME will try and fix them when possible. Because ultimately, that's what will provide the best user experience for GNOME users. I mean, if we work around things now, and then later on there's a new workaround to add, and then a new workaround, but then the things we work around get fixed, but we never know, so we keep working around it, and eventually your code base becomes much more complicated, much harder to maintain, and if it's harder for you to maintain, you won't be able to provide something good for your users. So really, try to fix the bugs where they are, even if in the short term it gets you through a bit of pain, because, well, your NVIDIA graphic card doesn't work right now. Still, not work around it, fix it. By the way, I didn't say anything, but if you have questions, don't wait for the end. Just ask, interrupt me. I mean, the slides is more of something to guide the discussion, but if we can have a discussion about it, just go ahead. I want to talk briefly about GNOME OS.
The future.
Yes, the future. Have any of you heard about GNOME OS?
No.
No, really? Yes? One? Oh, I'm surprised. I was really thinking people would flame me about GNOME OS. That's good if you don't know about it. Brief. GNOME OS is what some people in GNOME are trying to work on for the future. Many people think that GNOME is trying to make its own operating system and replace the Linux distributions. That's absolutely not what is the plan now. It might come in some point, but there's really nobody in GNOME talking about it now. GNOME OS is more aligned to what I was saying in the previous slide about choosing the stack, your components to your stack, considering it as a whole, and delivering that as the whole GNOME thing. What that means is that right now, there are several problems. GNOME 3.6 is out. It's been out for a few weeks now.